with another headphone amplifier review. This time we got the 11 Audio Formula S. So this happens to be one of our most highly recommended amplifiers to pair with 1266 and Diana. Works really well with our headphones, and in fact, it was actually specifically designed to be used with our headphones. The designer, Michael, he was a fan of our headphones, and he decided to get into his own little amplifier venture. He was in the electronics game for a while, designing products for other companies, and he decided to start his own venture and make an amplifier specifically for our headphone, which I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. He had he tried our headphone a number of years ago.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, when it first came out, he instantly realized what it was capable of, and I think he felt he could make an amplifier for this headphone. And that's what started his company. And now 11 Audio, spelled XIAUDIO, now has a number of products. They have the Saga, the DAC, which is an R2R ladder DAC. They have a outboard power supply for this. So you can even take it to the 11th level if you wanted to with the external supply, which really dead quiet backgrounds, and just beautiful icing on the cake for this amp. They also have some smaller amplifiers too, the Broadway and the fully balanced Broadway, and they're working on new stuff too. So more stuff will be coming out. But bottom line, we're here to talk about this amp, and feature-wise, this amp comes. It's just an amplifier. There's no built-in DAC.
Right.
It's only got one set of inputs. It doesn't act like a preamp where you're selecting different inputs. So, this isn't what it's made to do. It's not an integrated style amp, or doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. And the reason is because he wanted it to be as pure as possible.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of features, but it does have a lot of options when it comes to cabling. You do pretty much anything: 4-pin, dual 3-pin, 1/4 inch. But the one thing you do got to watch out, only the right one works on the 1/4 inch.
You only do 1/4 inch.
So you can't plug 2 in.
Yeah.
So that's.
And this amp's really not even made for 2 headphones. It's really made for just
he doesn't
one at a
recommend
time.
it.
Yeah.
And then just a volume knob, so pretty simple on the front.
Yeah, the volume knob is obviously nice. It's smooth. Yeah. It's quiet. On the back, we have a single set of inputs. You can order it with XLR or RCA. It's a single-ended amp internally, so it's not running balanced internally. So if you order the XLR input, there's no difference in sound between RCA and XLR. It just ignores pin 3 on the XLR. So, it doesn't matter which way from sound. It's just more of a question of what is your source coming out in, and what
it's
interconnection
just for
you have.
convenience.
Yeah, so you choose that. There's an on-off switch on the back. It's dual voltage, switchable on the rear for 120, 240, et cetera, et cetera. It's a standard IEC on the back, and an on-off switch is on the back too. Most people leave this thing on. It's solid state. It's always warm. It's always going to sound better when it's a little bit warm. So go for that. And let's talk about the sound.
Warm.
We have quite a bit of experience with this amp. It's been around for a while. It's surprising to me that we still haven't done a video on it.
Yeah, really.
Especially considering we like it. But it has almost a tube-like sound to it. A lot of people think it is a tube amplifier. So if you like that rich, warm, lush kind of sound that you get with a lot of tube amplifiers, this is very much that with solid state design.
With the clarity of solid state.
And the impact and the bass.
Yeah, it's a full Class A design. So it runs a little bit warm, but not hot at all. But it runs warm, which is the way we like it. Warm amps always sound warmer compared to cold amps. All electronics, in my mind, should be, And not only that, it was made to run like that. I mean, it was purposely designed like that. The designer, Michael, is excellent with understanding interstage bias and biasing in general. And he knows the components he chose on this, and he knows what they sound like, and he knows how to vary the sound. I remember when he originally did the first prototype I heard, and he brought it to a trade show, and we listened to it. It was just the beginning of 11 Audio, and I listened to it. And I'm like, I hate to tell him, but it was bright. It was leaner sound. It was wrong, So he went back and came back with another one, and I told him what we were after, type thing, and came back with another one, entirely fixed the problem. And I'm like, what'd you do? What did you change here? And he's like, I didn't change anything. It's the same components, same everything. I thought he might have changed some, coupling cap, something. I don't know what he would have changed. And he said, I didn't change anything, just some biasing resistors to change the bias on the stages. I'm like, wow. And it's surprising when you see that, because, I mean, we see it when we hear an amplifier, we get a piece of gear. Everybody, you're listening to the final product.
Right.
You have no idea what variables were involved in getting to that end game, that end stage where it sounds right. And it amazes me, and I think he's one of the talented designers I know passes into that too. Nelson Pass with Pass Labs is into the same thing, where he learns the sound of a part, like a transistor or a FET or a MOSFET, to such a degree that he knows exactly how to tune it through biasing and so on, and where to put it within a circuit, that to change the sound, the overall sound of the amplifier. And of course, any amplifier has multiple. These amplifiers have multiple stages, so you can tune the first stage, et cetera, and get an overall sound, which is really wild when you hear that. When you hear that somebody, all they did is change the biasing on from a working amp to another working amp, and it goes from bright to full-bodied, good second-order harmonic structure, crazy. But anyway, that's this amp, and it being DC coupled, it's really, really good in the bass frequencies. Bottom end performance is exceptional.
6 watts into 16 ohms, and then into the 1266 at 47 ohms, it's 2.5 watts.
Yeah, I think it's about 2.5 watts into this headphone.
Yeah.
Maybe a little under.
So,
which doesn't sound like a lot.
It does not.
If you compare it to other amps, but we use the 6 watt rating to compare to other amps because that's what it's capable of, and that's pretty much how the other amps are rated too. They're not going to give you the smallest number; they're going to give you the biggest. But this amp sounds bigger than most 10 watt or plus amps. I think because it's a full Class A design, and because it's got a pretty good power supply in it, I think, and because of its design, it's just got bottom end to it. It's probably better than any other solid state amp you can use with the 1266.
This is a good example of why the power ratings are sometimes not as important as a manufacturer might lead you to think. Because this has a ton of authority. It sounds really powerful, but 2.5 watts doesn't sound like a ton compared to a lot of the amps these days. You could get amps that are crazy powerful, and they don't sound like that for some reason.
Yeah.
They sound weak.
Or you could just get like really, really powerful amps and just brute force it. 100 watts, and then that usually works too.
There's always a trade-off, of course. As you get bigger, you've got more gain stages, more of everything, and noise tends to come up. So not that it's a big deal with noise with our headphone, but more of the higher sensitivity headphones it might be.
Yeah,
so
it's not for IEMs.
This amp's designed to be really, really quiet, and I wouldn't use it on like a stupid sensitive IEM. It's not, it's not made for that because it has that much power.
Right.
With devices like that, you are looking for something with less gain, less power. You don't need it, and obviously less noise. But in this case, it's a muscle amp for sure, and it's priced accordingly. And when we compare it, we've tried just about it. We've tried every amp at the top end. Yeah, most every amp at the top end, and we understand the difference obviously between what the solid state amps do and the tube amps do. And we recommend, of course, the WA33 for tubes, but in the solid state domain, I don't think we haven't found anything better than this. Nothing for the 1266. But anyway, it's got that tube warmth to it would be the best way to put it. But it's clear.
Solid state.
It's got great clarity to source, and great impact too in the bottom end.
Which is
really
kind of
sound.
An unusual combination, actually.
Yeah, it's really good, really good. I equate it. I've been in the business obviously forever, like 3 decades plus, right? Since the mid '80s, I've been doing this. And I equate it to, in the 2-channel domain world, I equate it like some of the top solid state amps in 2-channel. When you get a certain amp with your speakers, it just rings. They go together, and you get everything you want. You feel like you're getting everything you can out of that speaker. That's what this does for the 1266.
It was made to do that.
Yeah, it's exceptional. It's just exceptional, and it responds to good cabling, of course. The cables matter. The power cord will respond to it because it's high resolving, just like the headphone. So don't be afraid to tweak around this thing to make it better.
Well, it's available with an external power supply, and it pretty much just takes everything it already does and then amps it up, essentially, I guess, overall,
Yeah.
It's a blacker background and just more spacious sounding, even more effortless.
Yeah, it's a really cool addition. And you could get that any time. You could purchase it later as an option for it, but the internal supply is great. But that just brings it up to 11, which is kind of the running joke with the 11 audio stuff.
We see people all the time that end up getting the upgrade power supply, the Powerman, later on down the road, and they're amazed at how much it could do.
Yeah, you're thinking, well, it's already good, you know.
Yeah.
So how's it going to be better?
Yeah.
And it is.
Yeah, I think every 12666 owner that bought this amp bought the power supply afterward.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. I don't think there's an exception. They either get it up front or they get it after, but there's always a goal.
Yeah, it's probably most people get the amp first.
Right.
But you make sure, I do like it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I want more of this.
Right.
Internally, this thing's effectively a dual mono amp. It has little amp modules that are isolated from the main PCB, and I think it's a pretty interesting way to do it. You don't see that too much.
Yeah. Good separation.
Mm-hmm.
So there's basically two separate amp modules or amp boards in this one.
Yeah, it's like amps and amps.
Yeah.
Ampception.
Mm-hmm.
And they share a common power supply and transformer.
Right.
So it's not totally dual mono,
Right.
but it's a pretty beefy transformer for a small amp like this. So power's not an issue. It's
Plenty
quiet.
of power.
Yeah, it's fully regulated, so that helps too. Michael was proud to put wired with JPS Labs on the front panel.
Yes.
And this unit goes right from its inputs right directly to the volume control with it's probably a 12-inch run of our aluminoid conductors.
Yep.
Yeah, so you're running all the way from there to the volume control directly. There's nothing in between it. It's not hitting any PC boards or anything like that, which he wanted to keep the signal path as direct as possible and short as possible. And he had to do it that way to get to the volume control, and he decided he's going to use our wire to do it. So anyway, you don't have to take our word for it on this amp. There's hundreds of them out there at this point, and a majority of them own majority of those owners of this own 1266s too.
They do.
And you can ask any of them if what amp would you get? They're just going to point to this one. You know, so it's pretty popular combination. So that would be the way. That's the way to roll. And I mean, again, the amp is exceptional with any of the top tier headphones, and even lesser stuff. It
Makes them sound
for sure.
Makes everything
as good
sound
as
better.
they could sound too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people plug into our setups at the can jams and stuff. We bring this amp all the time. The whole rack of 11 audio. They make the Saga DAC. They make the Powerman power supply. They have a Broadway, which is a smaller. Much smaller desktop amp for the smaller headphones. But anyway, yeah, people plug in it all the time. They bring their own headphones. They show us, wow, my headphones never sounded this good. Mm-hmm. So it's a testament that the amp is very universal when it comes to what it'll play well with, because it's beautiful. It's beautiful sound. Yep. So that's that. That's the Formula S.
Yeah. And if you want to hear what we think about how this amp fits into the rest of the headphone amp space, we did a video covering this one, our amp tier list video, and we talked about how this one fits compared to the other amplifiers, higher and lower price points and whatnot. So it kind of helps give you like a good relative comparison, I think.
Right.
Maybe that's why we were thinking we already did it, because we did talk about it.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, we did the amp tier list video. It was a pretty popular video. It was a few months ago, 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah, we'll put a card somewhere.
Yeah,
over there.
right. I think this wound up in A+. It was top rated. Along with
it was A+ with Powerman.
With the Powerman.
With Powerman,
right.
yes.
Yeah.
A with
asterisk.
So, yeah. So basically, if you look at our tier list video, you'll see everything below this, except the
for the most part.
W33.
There's a few amps in there, and we talk about our reasoning for why they are where they are.
That's a good video, too. So, yeah, if you're
check
interested in having other options that work well with our headphones, then that's definitely where you want to go.
If you have any questions for any future videos, leave them down in the comments, or you can email us at totl@abysheadphones.com. And thanks for watching.
Thank you, guys.